found the #1 internet site for irreverent, cool, and entertaining talk programming. It's LA Talk Radio. We say what we want.
Now, broadcasting
from the City of Angels, Los Angeles.
Sheena Metal.
You're listening to the Sheena Metal Experience with your host, Sheena Metal, only on LA Talk Radio.
That's right. It's the Sheena Metal Experience right here on LA Talk Radio. For more info on the show, latalkradio.com, SheenaMetalExperience.com. Don't forget to email me and let me know what you think of the show. My guest for this entire show is truly one of my favorite guests to have on the Sheena Metal Experience in the whole world. She's a very, very amazingly talented actress and writer and producer, and you know her from many, many things, including, of course, the amazing Queer as Folk. Please welcome back to the Sheena Metal Experience. The wonderful Michelle Clunie is here. It's so good to have you here, my friend.
Oh, it's so good to see you.
Always fun to have you. It's been too long.
Well, it's always exactly.
Well,
now
it hasn't been very long, but before that, it was a long time.
It was a long time. You know, I was in New York for 4 months, so I didn't get to see you. We didn't get to have our lunch or dinner or catch up. And
right.
I love talking to you. Like,
Thank you.
Really, we
love
have
having
so much.
you here.
It's so much fun.
I think that you are one of the most creative and intelligent women that I have ever known, and I think that you're really a role model for actresses, that you can be beautiful and you don't have to be an airhead, and you
take
can
yourself
go out,
seriously.
do your own thing, but not take yourself too seriously.
That's what I'm saying.
Still have a sense of humor and
Absolutely.
be fun, and you know what I mean? And come in here with all the boys and we do the reunions and you're just like one of the guys and you're fun, but then, you know, that those two don't have to be mutually exclusive of each other.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. I was thinking about that on the way over. It's a really interesting time in my life right now, and I think it has to do with getting older and you become so comfortable in your skin.
Absolutely.
And you stop limiting yourself to say, well, I'm this, so I have to be like this all the time, or I'm this,
right.
or and you realize that you get to define yourself every second, you know, and to not even be trapped by your own definition of yourself.
Right.
You know?
Now, when you were young, because you come from a ballet background, did you put a lot of pressure on yourself? I have a very good friend that I met doing a play a year and a half ago, and we've become really good buddies. Yeah. And it's one of those stories where we played best friends and then we became best friends.
Yeah.
And she comes from a ballet background and has only really switched to acting full-time the last couple of years. And she beats herself up so much. And I always say to her, honey, it's okay. And she's like, but you have to understand, when you come from ballet, they teach you to do that.
Yeah.
So was that something?
And you mean beat yourself up as far as
well, like she's just hard on herself. Well, some of that, yes, but you know, just that everything, the strive for perfection in everything.
Well, you know, and that is an interesting part that just comes with ballet training is that there is a real strive for perfection. I mean, every single toe has to be turned the right way, and
right.
the lines have to be hit, and it's so difficult and so unnatural. Yet, you know, they make it look so beautiful and gorgeous and natural. But I think it took me a while to let go of that, and I think that fortunately I didn't start in ballet. I started in jazz and tap.
Okay.
And I thank God for that, because that has to do more with letting go and having fun,
right,
and being connected, you know, in a very sassy, saucy kind of sexual way. And so you know, I know people who trained in ballet that had to learn how to walk normal again, you know, and actresses who had to, you know, learn how to walk like a person, because you start to walk like a duck when you're a ballet dancer,
right,
and you're so obsessed with your turnout and how much you can get 180-degree turnout. And it hangs on you in many ways, not just the body image, which I think for years I was in my 20s. I dropped it fairly quickly because, like I said, I didn't start in ballet. But for years, you know, I always felt like I had to, you know, maintain a certain stick-like figure.
Sure.
And I think the second season of Queer as Folk, I started to drop that a little bit. And, you know, who knows? Maybe it was living in Canada.
Yeah.
You know, maybe it was being kind of away, because as much as we were in the spotlight, we were out of the spotlight too. I didn't see a lot of casting directors. I didn't have to audition because I had a job for 5 years. So I didn't feel I had this. And I was also playing a woman who was very comfortable in her own skin.
Right.
And I think that was a real freeing part of playing Melanie, is I was able to drop this obsession with, you know, always weighing a certain amount. And now I've just let that go completely.
I think that you still are very, very skinny, and I never would think that you would let that go completely. But I think it's interesting.
But I do love my food. I love to drink. I love to eat. I love to laugh.
But you should.
Yeah.
Because I think that we, as creative people, we have to sort of sometimes grow into the fact that, yes, we all want to be the perfect artist and we want everything to be perfect, but we're also living as humans. And while we're acting through a career, we're going through every year of our life on Earth, and you only get so many. And if you just live to be a creative person and a performer, then you get to be 60, 70 years old, you realize you had no life.
You didn't live your life. Yeah, you didn't spend time with your family. I know that for me, the last, I would say the last 4 or 5 months after the show, after I did the play in New York, has been the first month I slept. I'm not kidding you.
Nice.
I slept for a month.
Wonderful.
It was, I could not stop sleeping. I think because I didn't sleep when I was in New York.
Sure.
It was 4 months of pre-production and shooting the footage. And so I really did catch up on some much-needed rest. And then it's kind of like when I remember Jon Favreau, my ex-boyfriend, was very good friends with him. And when he did Swingers, he said that he felt like he put so much of his life into that movie that he then had to regroup. And I feel like that after the play, there was a very large piece of me on the stage, and I haven't been able to write. I just started writing again, and I'm really excited about a couple different projects, but I just couldn't, I was dry. I just had nothing. The cup was empty. I emptied it.
But I think that's okay. I think it's a good thing to leave a little time after a project ends, especially when you're the author of that project, before you start another project.
Yeah.
Because you just, I think as you're ending a project, you're thinking, oh, I can't wait to get into the next one. But then when it really ends, you sort of need a little time just to sort of ramp out of it and ramp into something else.
Yeah.
I think even with a play sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
You need some time to sort of detoxify from that character.
Yeah, wash the character out of your hair.
And just get used to being out of it.
Definitely, I feel like I took my time. I tried to start a few things, but it just didn't feel right. I felt like I was pushing it and forcing it, and I'm really not one to force. I really just kind of like to allow myself to organically go through my life, and it really was just until about, I'm not kidding you, last week that I've been toying with this idea. And I've been thinking about it for actually maybe 6 months. I just wasn't ready to do it. And I keep toying with it and toying with it and toying with it. And, I had dinner with some friends of mine, and Dan Studney was there last night, who's a great writer and just wrote my friend Brian's film, Jack the Giant Slayer. And so I bounced it off him, and he was like, ooh, that's a great idea. And then he offered me some ideas on top of my idea. And I was like, yeah, I think I can see where it would work. So it's fun to be excited about something again. And I also want to direct this one. I want it to be a film, and I want to direct it. And I think I'm ready now. I think going through the play, I know the pieces of the puzzle and what it takes to produce. I understand how, and I need to put it together so that I'm happy. And it was a huge learning experience. Huge, humongous.
So the play, you did everything except direct.
Yeah,
you wrote it.
I
produced it.
I wrote it. I produced it with the woman who directed it. We both brought in half the money. It was a passion project. She directed, I acted, and I wrote it, and we co-produced together.
That's wonderful.
And it was that's taking on a lot, but you build your muscles.
Right. See, I think if you had just written it and that was it, then as it was going into rehearsals, you would be involved in it, obviously, but then as it got into production, your job is almost kind of done. Yeah. And you have a lot more time to think about writing sooner. I think writers, they have a stretch, and then when things are actually being performed, that's when they have their break, and then they start writing again. Yeah. But I think when you're also producing it and also acting in it, you didn't have any time
and
any
also,
downtime.
Also, it was cathartic. It was completely 100% cathartic. I'm not the same person I was who went to go do the play.
That's wonderful.
And there's very few things you can say in your life where you go, wow, I pushed myself so far and I asked so much of myself that I'm actually a changed person, and you can no longer go back. And that's exciting.
That's all we can hope for in life.
I know. Queer as Folk was that for me. Studying with Milton was that for me. Choosing to move to LA was that for me. Choosing to become an actress. There's certain defining moments in your life where you go, whoa, I'll never be the same.
Right.
And it's just so thrilling.
Right. Because I think if you don't have those moments, then you don't really grow to the point where you're always the same.
Yeah, you don't push yourself.
I think it's important we hit those. And sometimes they can be scary.
Oh,
sometimes pushing into that next place.
I was scared to death. I was scared to death. And
you seem so calm and cool and collected through the whole thing.
Oh, I did.
Yeah,
Oh,
I mean, you did. You
interesting.
seem fantastic. I mean, I would never have known that you were scared. Excited?
Yeah.
Frazzled?
Frazzled, yes,
Run a little
yes.
crazy from too much to do and not enough time,
Yeah.
but I never would have thought that you were
Well,
scared.
maybe
doing it.
not scared. Scared might be the I'm trying to think. Was I scared? Actually, I wasn't scared. I'm such a proactive person. I wasn't scared. I was just always watching to make sure everything was covered. And I think my problem is I didn't have another one of me. I would definitely get an assistant next time, and have somebody as my right hand person who does a lot of the work that, I'm the kind of person that I can't go to bed if there's emails to be returned.
Right.
I just can't. So I'm the person that after a day of rehearsal and then writing and dinner and this and that and meetings, I'll go home and answer every email.
Yeah.
And I don't know how else to do it. And so I think that I would love to find somebody who could be my partner, right-hand person, and take a lot of the work that I don't need to be doing. And that's what I would do differently, for sure.
Now, is it hard because you have all the pre-production, you've got the production, you're making changes to the script as you're going through the rehearsal period, but then you have to sort of put that all away and put on your actor hat and go out there and act.
No,
whereas most actors have all day ramping up to just preparing to act.
They get to sleep
and then going into act. And that's
Right.
what I think is the hardest thing, is to make sure you give yourself the time.
Well, it was changing the hats. At first, I didn't know when to take off the writer hat and put on the actor hat. And the thing with the actor hat is it's all about being a kid, breaking the rules and playing.
Right.
And the more you break the rules, the more you get those great arbitrary moments and those mistakes. And the problem with having a producer hat on, as a producer, like as far as I go, I don't break the rules. I want everything to be done to a T, and I want everything covered. So that was difficult, but I learned kind of early on how to do that. I think if I had a person who was beside me picking up the slack, then I could have changed hats quicker, and I could have focused more on my acting as opposed to having the producer or the writer hat on. So that's something that I learned. That's
and it was only a 2-person show, right? So you were doing a lot of acting.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't like you had 3 scenes. I
No,
mean, you were on stage pretty much the whole time.
Exactly. Oh, yeah. No, it's a 2-person. It's a 2-hander. You're 50% of the play all the time. So
now, had you done a show in New York before? Had you done a play in New York?
No.
Oh,
I
wow.
never
So
did.
that was new too. You were in a new place. Nothing like
know,
starting off with
I know.
a bang, Michelle. You could have done a little thing here for a couple of nights.
I know. Jeez Louise, you think? No, I mean, and sometimes I think, oh, maybe I should have done the play here first. But the thing with me is I kind of follow my heart, and I kind of go with whatever I feel like, I really, am passionate about. And right now I look at this story, and as it's developing, as I'm fleshing this story out in my mind, I see this film coming together, and it's the first thing since the play that I see coming together in my mind. And I've gone through a lot of stories and a lot of ideas, and I'm just like, it doesn't really get me, and this gets me, and I can't wait to talk about it. I can't wait until it's in production, so I can actually talk about it. But it centers around women's rights. It's definitely a female-driven story, and taking a look at it from all different angles, which I think will make it complex and interesting. And it's something I'm passionate about, and something that's topical, so I'm excited.
Now, for my listeners that didn't get a chance to see the show in New York, why don't you give people just a little overview of what it's about? I know we talked about it when you were here last year.
Yeah.
But just because it's been a while.
Yeah.
A little bit about what your show that opened last year was about.
Well, it was a 2-hander. It was set against the backdrop of the year we elected Barack Obama, and during during the Hillary-Obama rivalry, and then eventually the Obama sweeping the nation. And it's a love story. It's about 2 progressives, a politician and actress, who are madly in love with each other in the progressive movement and the best of what America can be. And it has technology as a vehicle. You go through this relationship with the emails and the text messages and the cell phones and the bi-coastal relationship. And it was somewhat of a modern day The Way We Were.
That's wonderful.
And that's one of my favorite movies. That and All the President's Men, I think, are my two.
I love both of those films.
God, aren't they great?
But Way We Were, right? It's a retcher, Michelle. Because here are these
so
2 people,
beautiful.
right, who are really soulmates and should be together. Mm-hmm. But they're not, because they get torn apart by the fact that their lives aren't in the same place.
Yeah.
To me, that's tragedy.
Yeah.
Because there's every reason why they should be together forever and ever and ever.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't work. And you just want them both to quit their lives and run off together and go live in Fiji.
Exactly.
You know, I mean, to me, that's the most tragic
that sounds
thing.
Great.
Isn't it?
I like the way your
We're all
mind
going
thinks.
to Fiji.
Hey.
But you know what I mean? Because do you choose your life, or do you choose this love that you may never have again?
Yeah.
That's hard.
It's interesting. You know, there's this book I read. It's called Soulmates by Thomas More, not the philosopher from the 17th century.
Right, exactly.
A modern
Not
version
Sir
of
Thomas
him.
More.
But it's a fantastic read, because it talks about how soulmates are not necessarily people who are together for eternity.
Right.
There are people who come into your life, and it may be for 3 weeks, it may be for 2 days, it may be for a year, 2 years, 5 years, 20 years, your entire life. But there's something there that you're meant to learn from each other, and you're meant to grow. And sometimes it's complex, and sometimes it's not pretty and perfect. But if you recognize them and you realize that usually you're very different after that sort of experience, you're no longer the same person. You've been touched in a way that you can no longer go back. And I think that's the two people in the play. I think they really pull out something in each other. She certainly brings out the best in him and leaves him knowing that he needs to ask for more. And he in turn helps her find her true artist. And she goes out and asks more of herself, and it's beautiful. I love a love story.
Yeah, I do too. And you found a way to put little politics in it. Because
I
know
did.
That's a passion of yours.
Yeah, I did in a way that I think that I think I did it in a way where we were able to focus on the love story and have the politics just be part of who they are. It's very natural to them. But at the same time, I think that when I look at this film, there's definitely underneath it, there's something going on that's very topical, and it's political. But at the same time, I now know how I'm actually going to cover that even more. And Tracy Letts, a very good friend of mine, was roommates with Tracy Letts, and he's a great guy. And he says that the whole idea in writing is to know what you want to say and then cover the hell out of it.
No, I agree.
And that's the real trick of it. And that's something I really learned on the play too, that I want to bring into the film, is to really cover it so that it's people don't really know what's coming at them, and they get to experience it rather than feel like they're forced to experience it. It washes over them.
Right.
So yeah, it works on a subliminal level too. So that's what I'm looking at in my writing, which is exciting.
Well, and that's the best kind of writing, don't you think? Where people can take it at whatever level they want it at.
Yeah.
And the more you want, the more levels you get.
Exactly.
Some people just want the story, and they want to follow the story, and they don't want to they don't want to think about everything. They don't want to go that deep. And then it's fine for them.
Yeah.
But some people really want to keep thinking about, well, does this mean this, and did this happen because of this, and just keep thinking.
Yeah.
And it's hard, I think, to write on multi-levels. You have to be very talented.
I think the play was multi-level. One reviewer got how many levels were in the play. I mean, it was, my mind's pumping on different levels. So the play was multi-leveled, but and some people didn't get a couple of the levels, which is okay. Which is fine. Yeah. Some people were like, oh, I loved what you said about the unbearable lightness of being, and da-da-da-da, and da-da-da. And that was, it was a small thing, but it's the fact that, here's this book that was written in a country that's about communist control, and that this girl's an artist, and the girl in that book was an artist. And there's little tiny things throughout that were very personal to me, but were not obvious, which I adore. It's
wonderful.
Yeah.
Now, had you ever been in New York for that long a period of time?
Yeah, I have. I lived in New York with an ex-boyfriend once, and I was in New York when I was in Toronto. I used to go down to New York quite often.
Okay.
Because it was a hop, skip, and a jump.
Okay.
And so I've spent quite a bit of time.
So you're familiar with living there?
Yeah, and I always think about moving there, about actually getting a place there. I mean, I'll rent a place for short periods at a time, 4 months at a time. But I don't know. I mean, you look at the day we're having today.
Right. And
it's gorgeous.
I know. It's something. It's why so many New Yorkers are here.
I know. Well, my friend Lane, he's spending the weekend with me this weekend, and I'm taking him on every hike you can ever imagine. And he's like, my God, this is incredible. I get why people live here.
And what about this view every day out my window?
Every day.
Is this something?
Gorgeous.
I know, right?
Gorgeous.
It's unbelievable. I sit here every day and talk to people.
Yeah.
What a job.
I wake up, I look out my living room or my bedroom window, I see palm trees.
Yeah.
I see the sun. I see, I just want to jump out of bed and go hiking and drink my juice. And you know what? I go to New York and I can stay there for 3-4 months at a time.
Do some work and come home.
Month at a time. Go to Paris, go to Montreal.
Absolutely.
And then you always come back to a piece of paradise.
You know, there's something about this place, I think, that inspires creativity.
Well, you know what it is, and it's funny because I talked about this in the play. As opposed to New York, where everyone's right on top of each other,
right,
and it's go, 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 there's breath here, there's space here. And
right,
in that space, your mind gets to wander, and you can make mistakes in your thinking. And I think creativity is really tied closely to mistakes and relaxation. A relaxed mind is a creative mind. And I think you get that here. I love writing here. And I think there's something
magic about the ocean. I think the ocean inspires creativity. Something about all that salt and the energy of the ocean and all of the magnetism of it and all the spirituality of it.
So healing.
Yeah,
I'm going out to Malibu tomorrow. I'm taking Lane out to Malibu. He's like, I've never been to Malibu. I'm like, what?
What? You're not going to get him home.
Oh, no. I'm taking him to Malibu and
he's
showing him
He's going to stay right there.
Yeah.
And then just move.
Yeah.
Get a place while he's there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't blame him.
Yeah. You're really sucking him in with the Malibu and the hiking.
Yeah. He's in town for the GLAAD Awards. He's like, what if I just don't go back?
Yeah, but that's how people wind up staying here. I think they come out to do a play, and they never. I had a guest on the show yesterday. Came out here to do a show at the Amundsen. Never went home.
Yeah, and I guess it's the West Coast. I grew up on the West Coast.
Yeah.
So I have that. As much as I can be very intense, I have that kind of easygoing, live and let live attitude that will never go away.
See, and I grew up on the East Coast. And on the water, and I love it. I love the East Coast, but there's something about this place has changed me.
Yeah.
Being here all this time has changed me.
It's hard to go anywhere else, isn't it?
Yeah. When I go back to the Northeast now, I love it, and I find it to be very romantic in a very old way. But then after a week or so, I'm longing to come home.
It's also very traditional. You know, most of the guys I've dated are from the East Coast, and I have always found them to be very traditional.
Right.
And with tradition comes convention.
Sure.
And there's something about the West Coast that you kind of like, you can go to the beat of your own drum.
Right.
And it's more the attitude here. And I appreciate that because I grew up like that, you know, a little bohemian. So it suits me. It fits me.
Yeah. I like convention, but I like tradition. I don't like convention so much, but I like tradition.
Appreciate it. Absolutely.
I like tradition, but I like people from the East that are here.
Exactly.
Because I like when they come here and their edges get softened.
Yeah, exactly.
So they still have. I love all that
combo.
Propriety and I'm going to do just what I say I'm going to do and all those things. That, especially Northeastern people, we pride ourselves on that. But I like the sort of softer edges that the Pacific Ocean has rounded you out a little bit.
And you know what's funny? Most of the important people in my life are from New York or New Jersey, but they've moved to the West Coast.
Right, and I'm from New Haven, Connecticut, right around the corner.
My dad's from New Jersey, but he moved to the West Coast to be with my mom. So, you know, I love that combination.
Yeah, it's kind of nice. It's like we're like softened crustiness. Our crust is been a little softened by this area. So I know you talked when you were here with the boys a couple of weeks ago about sort of that your sort of foray into politics and advocacy and activism is relatively something new in your life.
Well, I would say it was you know, it's I was raised with in a family that was extremely politically aware.
Okay.
And those were the conversations around the dinner table. And you know, I've always done my activism here and there, but in certainly on queer as folk, you know, we always had our opportunities to engage in activism. But there was something that happened with Prop 8 that really kicked me into high gear. And I realized that equality is a struggle. Like Scott King says that it's equality is never truly won but earned with each generation.
Right.
And I really began to understand that because I thought everything was going to unfold easily at a certain point. I thought the tipping point was much sooner than it actually was. And with Prop 8, I realized that you know, we hadn't gotten there, and that everyone was going to have to, you know, pitch in and do their part, and it inspired me. And sometimes, you know, when a movement takes a hit, it actually galvanizes people, and you know, the momentum starts to pick up, and people realize that they have to get, you know, active. So there's always a silver lining.
Was it the fact that it was that
in my own state?
That it was embarrassed. One, that it was in your own state.
Yeah,
and
totally.
Two, that they legalized it and then unlegalized it. I mean, I think that's what was the hardest thing for everybody.
That frightened me because I never, you know, state constitution and federal constitution. I never saw a constitution take away rights from people.
It was scary.
And
Because I think there are a lot of states in the union that we realize they're not there yet, and it hasn't happened yet, and we just live with that.
Yeah.
But for it to happen and then unhappen in a state like ours.
It scared me.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because I'm like, well, if that can happen, what else can
Right. Is Roe versus Wade next?
Well,
and then what's after that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because God knows they're trying hard enough for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree.
And that affects women, not just, when it comes to abortions, but overall when it comes to, ownership of your body.
Yep.
And it affects them on ways that we could go into, many ways, just on your overall health, and that's frightening. It's frightening to be a woman.
It's a statement on the days when women were considered to be property.
Yeah.
It gets us back to that. Well, if you don't even have control over what you do with your body, then what's next?
Yeah.
Is the vote going to go next, and then what goes after that?
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing that we need to be careful about.
It's so interesting. And the people who are pro-life, the right wing, the extremists, I always look at them, and I look at other fundamentalists around the world, and I always see that there's so many similarities.
Yeah.
They're always extremely pro-gun.
Right.
They're always extremely anti-homosexuality and anti-women. And I always find that so very interesting. And they both use, the fundamentalists in this country and the fundamentalists around the world and other religions, they always use their religion in a way that suits their needs.
Sure.
That serves them. They always find a way to twist religion. And I always think, wow, gosh, there's so many similarities. I wonder if they realize that, if these, people who are thought that they were so patriotic with their guns and their Bibles, if they realize how very much in line their thinking is with fundamentalists around the world, I think it would, it may not wake them up. Well, they may not even be able to understand it.
And I think it has to do with just not rocking the boat. I mean, I think that for these people, their lives are the way they are because they have a very strict box of what's okay and what's not okay.
Right.
And they don't want to rock the boat for all different reasons. A lot of times it's because they're the ones in power and the system works well with them getting everything. For something, it's like, well, what if women suddenly want the vote? Then they're going to want this, and they're going to have opinions. Or if homosexuality is okay, then what else do we make okay? And I don't think that they're specifically anti-homosexual as much as they're just anti-right.
Anything that threatens
having
their
rights.
Control.
Anything that threatens the status quo, because that the status quo is working for them. So they don't want anything to come in. If they don't like other religions, because if people think, well, this other religion may be okay, then what if they even think another religion? They may come up with have no religion or come up with their own religion. And it's just they don't want people to think for themselves. And if you look at sort of the group in our country that's very much pushing the no gay marriage, the no abortion, the no this, the no that, it's all that same kind of don't rock the boat, let's go back to 1950. And they're always so angry, and they look like they need a good laxative. I just want to seriously send them each a nice little gift-wrapped X-Lax box, because there's just, what is it with the correlation between fundamentalism
Are you talking about
and
all
spiritual constipation?
The old white men with the bad haircuts?
Right, and they all look like, wow, I just want to give them a nice big laxative. Because they just seem so pent up and not okay. And then the women in that group all sort of seem like the lights are on, but nobody's home.
Well, they're just following the men. They're not thinking for themselves.
They have that little bit of that Michelle Bachman, I'm half a step from a zombie on Walking Dead kind of look in their eyes. And they just kind of follow right along in a strange, just sort of repeating the rhetoric.
Stepford wife.
That seems like it's 600 years old. I mean, you could see them all in Puritan robes repeating the same rhetoric.
And it's very much the foundation of it. It's built around fear and hate.
Yes.
And it's so sad to me. I don't know why you wouldn't want to get on the love train. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't either.
I think that as we progress and as we move forward, and it's 10 steps forward, 9, 10, 11 steps back,
right.
2 steps forward. It's progress doesn't happen in a linear fashion. I always wonder why. I'm so fascinated by other people. I love other people. I love diversity. I love traveling and finding out about other people and people uniting and coming together. And I just don't understand why they don't want to jump into humanity and jump on board and make the world better. I just don't get it. But I guess they think in their mind that their view of life and the way they think people should live is better.
Right.
I'm shocked. I don't understand. This thinking that our schools need to have uniformed police officers carrying weapons. I don't understand it. I don't get it. I don't get what they're thinking. It's it makes me really sad. It makes me really sad because I think we have moments in this country where we move forward and you feel this momentum. Then all of a sudden something happens like it did this week, and you go, wow.
Yep.
Right. And it's a big dose of reality, and you realize, yes, our politicians are bought. And I knew that. And I wish every day that politicians would work for minimum wage, and it would have to be a job where they don't get to wear these big, powerful black and navy suits. They have to wear overalls or something, or they have to wear
dress
beige.
like the workers at Best Buy.
Yeah, exactly.
They have to wear a red, white, and blue polo shirt and khakis.
Exactly. And they're not allowed any freebies. They're not allowed any perks. And if they they have to drive a hybrid, they have to drive a Prius.
Right.
They
get 45 minutes for lunch and a 15-minute coffee break.
Exactly. And if they really want to serve the country, then roll up your sleeves and serve the country.
Right.
But it's this ego and this this hypocrisy and the mendacity, as Tennessee Williams would say, that really eats me up inside. And I wish that they would have to buy their own health insurance. Yeah. They should have to go out and pay for health insurance the way that my sister does. Now, my sister's well off. She's fine, but she was telling me about the different deals that she has to, the different deals she's looking at for health insurance. And I said, you pay. How? I mean, are you kidding me?
I have my own health insurance. You wouldn't believe it.
Oh my God! I mean, thank God I'm in a union.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's crazy what she has to pay.
Crazy if you're not in a union.
It's nuts.
Yes.
I've never heard of anything.
It's most of where your income goes.
Oh yeah. And
then when you get sick, they don't even cover you that well anymore.
Oh, you know what? It's so funny because we now have to pay for our insurance through the union, which is still a great deal. I am not complaining whatsoever. But it's so interesting. I went to the doctor the other day, and they're like, "Well, we're out of network." And we're like, oh, really? Oh, I didn't know that. And then it's like, and then some doctors, they do pay, and they'll pay like, 40, 50%. I'm like, really? Even, union insurance is really taking a hit. It's so, I don't know. I wish politicians had to buy their own insurance.
Yeah.
And, but it's not going to happen because they're in power. They're making the laws, and that they're not going to vote in that they have to buy their own insurance. So that's not going to happen anytime soon.
Yeah, it's a strange, and and they vote for wars, but their kids don't go.
Oh,
I love that scene in the Michael Moore movie. The one about that happened right about the time that we went to Iraq, where he kind of stops all the senators and tries to ask them if their sons and daughters are fighting.
They don't,
and they all ignore him on the street corner. Yeah, because if you're so pro-war, then your kid should have to go.
And I think that should be a law.
Sure.
I think if you are in a position where you can vote for any person to go to war in this country, then you have to have served, and everyone in your family has to serve, and that is the law. I don't think we would have as many wars.
Yeah, I agree.
I just
I certainly don't understand, and not to get completely political with you, but I kind of am.
Get it, girl.
Why are we still in this war? What is going on with this thing? Why? It's been what now? Over 10 years.
Yeah.
And we're still in Afghanistan. We're supposedly now out of Iraq, but we're not really. And we've now been through, we blame the whole thing on the conservatives, but now we obviously for the last however many years do not have a conservative president. Yet we're what does it take to just pack everybody up and bring them home?
Well, Obama, Obama has kept up all the Bush policies as far as I believe as far as the war goes, but he's strategic and he's smarter, obviously.
Sure.
And he knows how to catch Bin Laden.
Sure.
And he's a smart guy, but he's hawkish. He's
like a lot of things about him, very, very much.
Me too.
But it just seems like our country is so broke.
Yeah.
But where so much money has gone into that war.
Yeah.
Do you know how much medical insurance
business.
and school pencils and help for the elderly people and Social Security and all those things we could have put with that money? What was it? At one point, like billions of dollars a day?
Yeah.
Just for what?
Yeah. And I know, look, they're trying to get everything, out of the country, and they don't know, and it's, they're trying to navigate. And look, I don't know all the specifics about it, but I do know that, our country has a big history with making a lot of money when it comes to wartime, and I don't know where that will end or how that will end or if it's something that we can end. I'm not sure. I'm not certain. It's a big business for us.
Yeah, but it used to be that American citizens actually profited. The economy got better during wartime.
Yeah.
But this one has just been like Somebody got rich, but we
Dick
don't know
Cheney
who it is.
Certainly
Dick Cheney. I'm so glad.
Yeah.
Well, now I'm feeling better
happy.
about the whole thing.
I feel so good about that.
I'm glad the Cheneys are doing well, because
Dick
I was
Cheney
really
did
worried
very
about
well.
that little shanty family standing around their trash can fire. I was really concerned that the Cheneys were going to go bankrupt.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's good. Yeah. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
He needs,
but I think I still wonder. I remember I said it was around 2008. And we were campaigning for Obama, and I said to a friend of mine, Charles Kaiser, who's a really smart guy, very smart guy, and I said, I don't understand why we don't take Bush and Cheney to task and actually put them on trial.
Right.
And I still don't understand it. I think Rachel Maddow did a great job with the documentary, and she's obviously one of my favorite people in the world, but I don't understand why we don't do that. Are they untouchable? Are they like the banks? Are they, is there some reason why we can't do that?
We sure hauled Clinton in for oral sex.
Yeah, he got a blowjob.
Right.
God
and we hauled him
man.
right in, right?
I hope all men get blowjobs. I've got no problem with that.
How much of our money went to that? Of having that trial again and again, day after day.
But then
was so
war
important.
That was unnecessary.
Right.
God
there were no weapons of mass
died,
destruction.
Because how many people they said died. You know that you got to times that by however many to find out.
And they don't really count how many Iraqi
really
people died.
No, they're never.
We sifted through every grain of sand in Iraq, and there are no weapons of mass destruction.
So how much blood is on their hands?
Yeah.
And yet, and this is my concern, is that if we let that go unchecked, and if we allow them to live their lives, well, what's going to stop it from happening again?
Yeah.
Because I think that at some point you got to hold people accountable, because then you're saying that this is not okay. This is not okay. You cannot do that in this country. But as of now, we're saying you can do that in this country.
Sure.
And, Democrats may win the next election, and we may be able to ride that wave of, yay, progressives are in power. But, it's I think it's dangerous to leave it unchecked. I really do. Yet I don't know why we're not bringing them to task, and
right.
Because they certainly deserve it. There's enough blood on their hands.
Yeah.
I find it interesting that Bush is painting all these pictures of him in the shower and the bath. It's like psychologically he wants to cleanse himself.
What's going on with that?
I don't know.
He's a strange man, right?
It's a little odd.
The poor guy almost choked on a pretzel. Now he's painting these strange kind of like paintings from prison, like the kind of things that prisoners paint.
Maybe he's in a prison of his own mind.
Maybe he's in a prison that he made for himself.
Because I don't know what person, unless what's the ending? I was talking to Brian about this the other day. The ending of that Woody Allen movie, is it Husbands and Wives, where at the end he talks about, because didn't they killed the girl, and at the end of the movie he's like, over time you start to think, it's okay. Is that it? Is that over time? Can people do that over time? They're like, yeah, I sent the country to war. Yeah, all these people died, but I'm okay with it. I mean, can a human being actually do that? Or do you somehow want to destroy yourself because man is basically good?
I think.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get so deep here.
No, I love this. And that's an age-old question,
I think man is basically good. I do. I've heard people argue that man is, the animal who's trying to be good. But I think man is basically good.
I think that some people are basically good.
And some people
and I think
are
some
insane.
people are bad.
Yeah.
And I think some people come out good and know they're good forever. Right. And I think some people come out bad and just do bad.
Yeah.
And I think most people are in the middle trying to figure out whether they're good or bad most of the time.
Well, that's probably pretty
accurate. And then I think some people are maybe their soul is good,
of themselves in the bath,
but
trying to cleanse their soul.
And they're just there. I mean, I think that if you looked at some of former President George W. Bush's speeches in the beginning about how he was the warrior and he was like a ranty crazy man. It was Hitler-esque.
He's the one who said God put him there, God talked to him.
Yeah, it was crazy talk.
I got to tell you, and I'm sure I've said this to you before, but my grandmother was from Mississippi. She was a Southern Baptist. Well, actually, Pentecostal. She understood God more than anyone you could ever meet, and she was the kindest person, and she never preached it. She never talked about it in public or around a big group of people even. She just lived it. She was kind to her fellow man. She was kind to everybody, not a bad bone in her body. Someone like that, my grandmother, would never be arrogant enough to say, God's talking to me. The minute someone says God is talking to them, they have no connection to God. because I think that there's a certain humility. You have to be humble to understand that to really live this life and be a good person, and to really love everyone and be compassionate. It's tough. It requires something that is, has nothing to do with the arrogance of a man who says, God put me here. And it's so disgusting.
Well, I think when people start talking about God told me to, either they're trying to get out of something, or they're trying to convince you should do something for their gain, or they're insane. And so take your pick. I mean, it was one of those things. And so I just think that maybe he's not well, and that maybe these sort of childish paintings are sort of a reflection of somebody who's maybe not well.
Sure.
But then, look at Ronald Reagan. Oh, my God. Now that's 55 Republicans just turned off their radios. But, people revere him now as a saint.
The American Margaret Thatcher.
But friends that I know that were in the military while he was president would tell you that he was a complete warmonger. I mean, he was always wanting to get in the middle of things. We were in all kinds of activities that weren't officially wars. And now we know he wasn't all that well either. So, maybe that sometimes maybe there needs to be some kind of a, like a psych test for president.
Wouldn't that be great?
Maybe if you want to be president, you need to take a psych test and you need to wear a polo shirt and work for free.
Exactly.
But I mean, even with
really
the president,
serve the people.
I think that, I don't know, I think that a lot of even the party thing, I understand that it's important that people want to be part of parties, and I have no problem with that. I'm a lifelong Democrat and very proud of it.
Oh, absolutely.
But I think that once you become president, you become the president of everybody, not just of your own party.
And Obama's been very good at that.
And I think Obama's been very good at that.
He says it constantly, and I'm so impressed, because there are times when I'm like, oh, yeah, the red states, let them pay for their own roads,
Right, yeah.
It's like, and I think he's very, very good at that. I respect that, and it's changed my attitudes, in ways, because he's such a strong leader in that respect. It's interesting. I don't know where all this is going to lead. I really don't. I mean, I think we'll always come through and we'll always pull out of it, but it's just as soon as you think, oh, we're pulling ahead, we're really making progress, you feel that hand pull us back into the 20th century. And it's very frustrating.
Well, and such just a litany of tragic events. We just get over Newtown, and then we have Boston. I mean, there's just something after something after something.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a very strange time and it's a very dichotomous time, right, Michelle? Because on one hand, it's a very
hopeful time.
Yes, and a time of an age of enlightenment. People are more and more finding enlightenment. People are more and more becoming peaceful. Kids all over the states are talking about no bullying, and you're seeing all these wonderful things happening. But then on the other hand, so many people are almost turning the clock back and regressing backwards.
See, I think in the end, it's more of a hopeful time than not. Because I think that it's been 10 years since we've had domestic terrorism. This recent Boston Marathon is the first time in 10 years that we've actually had domestic terrorism, and there's something to be said for that. I mean, you got to find the hope, and I think that part of it is I think that the more we move forward, the more we progress. I think there are people who want so badly to screw it up and to keep us in the dark ages that they start to rise up and they start to have something that's stronger to fight against. And they go, well, we have to, stir it up. We have to be shit stirrers. And so I think that the more we progress, the more, what is that? They're not, you're not doing your job unless they're coming after you.
Right.
I think there's a certain, something to be said for that. We have been bucking the status quo for quite some time. Look at the LGBT movement. You look at, I think we're about to elect our first female president. I think we're on the cusp of greatness. And I think the next 5 to 10 years are going to be very interesting. We're going to have some huge breakthroughs, but it won't be easy. I think as we move forward, we're really going to have some people. We're going to piss some people off.
Sure.
And they're going to rise up and they're going to try to do what they can. But in the end, I think we're going to conquer.
And we're such a model for the world, and I know I said that last time you were here, and I don't mean that to be arrogant at all, but I think that America doesn't realize what the responsibility that we have is, that people look to us. to see what we're doing about gay marriage, about abortion.
Definitely.
I mean, some countries don't give a damn about us, but a lot of countries.
But you know what? It doesn't matter. In the end, it doesn't matter what our economic status is.
Right.
They're always going to look to us because we're bigger than just a country based on Wall Street.
Right.
We're a country based on the ideology that we're all equal.
Right.
We haven't gotten there yet, but it's a great experiment. We're still the great experiment.
And we're a country that defied the odds.
Yeah.
We took everybody's rejections and made an amazing country out of it.
Yeah.
I mean, we're always going to be that.
We're always
going to
be that.
We took the scraps and made the most fabulous thing in the world out of it.
It's very Scarlett O'Hara.
It is.
We're the country that produced the character Scarlett O'Hara.
Exactly.
We will pull those curtains down and we will make that dress.
Yes,
damn it.
The United States of America were made from the drapes. That's very true. Okay, so while we're talking about the LGBT movement, I haven't talked to you obviously since you went to Cologne. So tell me a little bit about what that was like. I know I was going to get you guys all together right before you went there, and then my life ensued. So I didn't.
Life happened.
Yes, real life happened for me. So what was it like for you? Was that the first fan con that you'd ever been to for anything?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. That was the first one, and it was a blast, and it was wild, and it was a love festival. Actually, it turned into a really great love festival. But once again, we have the really best fans in the world. Very nice. Smart, progressive, interesting, politically engaged, on the forward cusp of what's happening, and so it became more of it was a fan convention, but and that was definitely part of it, but also intense discussions. And in fact, speaking of which, I feel like I should check my Facebook. I just want to do a shout out to Gretchen and Judy.
Oh, I like that.
And a shout out to Joe in the UK.
Hey, Joe, how are you?
And Rachel in Oregon, and everyone coming to the convention, and Christine and Angie, and did I say Judy? Yes, Judy Becker. And it was amazing. And I think that a great thing about going to Cologne and being there is that you really felt as a cast how much we truly were the American version of Queer as Folk, because we were also outspoken and feisty, and you really do see yourself more when you're in a different country. You're like, oh yeah, that's right, we are American, aren't we? Because we're very expressive and very bold, and I think that was one of the great things about the American version of Queer as Folk, is that not only did it last 83 episodes, but it was bold and it was in your face, and we wanted to make sure that we surpassed the British version sexually, and we wanted to make sure that we were as bold, and we certainly achieved that, and it was great. It was a great experience. It's a great experience, and I'm looking forward to the one here. It's going to be, I think, even better because we have that one under our belt.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
We've got the first one under our belt.
Absolutely.
It's not our first rodeo. Now I think we can sit back and enjoy it even more.
Now, did you think before the internet really grew to where it has with social networks, so before the last maybe 3 or 4 years, that you would wind up ever having as much contact with your fans as you do now?
No.
And you're wonderful with them on Facebook and on Twitter.
Thanks.
You're just fantastic with them.
Well, I like to connect. It comes from a place of I love mixing it up. Oh, Gretchen said, love you, Michelle Clunie. I love that. For me.
I do too.
I love the theater so much. I love bringing things full circle and having the complete connection. And it's fantastic. And it breaks down the walls and the barriers so that you can really connect with others and find out their point of view and how they see things. And the more perspectives you have, the more well-rounded you are. And I think it's wonderful. I think it's fantastic. And it's interesting because I remember the first year that Queer as Folk was on the air, I think I got my first computer that year or the year before.
Okay.
But it was so the internet, as we were the first couple of years when we were getting fan mail, it was all via the U.S. Postal Office or the postal system. And so it changed over the years to Facebook messages and Twitter messages. And now I still get fan mail, but it's not like it was in the beginning. Now it's mostly through, social media. So it's really changed, and I've been able to see that change.
Now, when you were getting the U.S. Postal mail, fan mail, were you able to see a lot of it? I mean, did Showtime funnel a lot of that in your direction so that you were all seeing that?
Yeah, and I still, I'm not going to lie. I have 20 letters sitting in a drawer that I have to get to, and I don't know. I found them in my closet, and sometimes when you're getting bags of mail, it's hard to read everyone.
Sure.
And
Oh, gosh, sure.
And also, you can't have an assistant read them. You just can't.
I agree.
They're personal.
I agree.
want to read them, and I want to respond.
I feel that way, too.
Yeah,
Yep.
and that's how I do it. And so, there would be letters that slipped through the cracks. But, I think it was, 6 months ago, and I was cleaning out a closet, and I found this letter from this guy. I think it was Beat in, it was Norway. It wasn't Norway, but I can't remember which country it was. And so I looked him up I thought, well, how many people can have that name? I looked him up on Facebook, and I sent him a message, and he said, "Are you kidding me?" I said, I am so sorry. I'm 10 years late getting back to you.
That's wonderful.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that we're having a convention coming up. And he's like, I can't make it. And I said, well, you know what? Then I'm going to send you a picture, an autographed picture of the whole cast. And I hope that makes up for the 10 years. And please friend me on Facebook, and we can be in communication. And he's amazing. He's a great guy. And so that's what social media is. You can,
I agree.
You find a letter, you didn't respond, you feel bad, you're like, oh, I let it slip through the cracks. And so it's fabulous. It's great. And also, the more people connect, the more we communicate, the more information is exchanged, the less suppression, the more we're free. And
absolutely.
It brings us closer together, the global village.
I feel the same way. And I think that people that don't understand that, performers are kind of missing out.
Yeah.
Because really the joy of making art
Yeah.
is to make it for someone.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, it's
absolutely.
nice that it feels good to us when we do it.
Yeah.
But we're doing it for someone.
To connect.
And so when I worked
Yeah.
for all those years for CBS, and I think I was kind of the nut job there that made sure that I answered every email and everyone who listened to the show, but it was important to me to get that feedback. And some of those people have been my listeners since I started in radio, since my first TV show 22 years ago.
And you know what? They're there when you're doing your play in New York, and they show up.
Absolutely.
Oh my God, I'm gonna cry.
No, that's beautiful. So you had fans come and see your play.
I was so moved. Because, here, it was down the street from Sam Shepard's play. I'm very proud of that. But it was this little tiny theater, and they flew in from all over the place. And they gave me so much love and so much encouragement. And they were there after the show. They came to the opening night party.
So
they showed
beautiful.
up throughout the run of the play. And, at the end of the day, it's the Carol Burnett in me. It's that old school kind of performer in me. They're the ones I do it for. They're the ones who I think of when I say, what would they like next? What am I looking at in my life? And when I think about this film about women's rights, I think about Rachel and Judy and, these women who over the years they've said thank you. And I say thank you back to them because it keeps you going.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
You're one of the good ones, Michelle.
Oh.
You're awesome. We're going to take a quick break, and two Celts are going to compose ourselves. And then we'll be right back with you. It's the Sheena Metal Experience on LA Talk Radio. We're right back after this. It's the Sheena Metal Experience right here on LA Talk Radio. For more info on the show, latalkradio.com, SheenaMetalExperience.com. Don't forget to email me and let me know what you think of the show. The wonderful Michelle Clunie joins me all this hour, and we're sort of doing the potpourri topics, everything under the sun, talking about fan cons and politics and the world and theater and art. And speaking of fans, one of yours is on the line wanting to talk to you, so shall we do that?
Let's do it.
You're on the Sheena Metal Experience with Sheena and Michelle. Tell us your name and what questions do you have for Michelle today?
Hello.
Hello? Oh, hang on. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Hi.
Are you there?
We sure are.
Okay, I have a list. Which one?
Oh, no! Wait, is this Judy?
Dichotomy and devious.
Oh, it's Judy.
Is this Judy? Is this you?
Here we go. Okay. You played Abby, you played Maggie, and you played Mel.
Uh-huh.
And you also have your personality. And each of them has very strong characteristics. And in those strengths, it sometimes can be like their downfall. I don't mean it literally as a downfall. And what do you see that there is a similarity between the three characters and your personality, and how did you bring that out of yourself?
Wow, that's a good question. I was really nervous.
That wasn't so bad. That
wasn't so bad.
Question.
I can handle it.
Okay, for everybody listening that doesn't know, real quick, all three characters and from where?
Oh, Abby was from the Mercy Seed.
Okay.
Mel from Queer as Folk, and then Maggie was from the play that I wrote.
Fantastic.
And it's interesting. I've had one mentor in my life who was just, God, he was incredible. Milton Katselas. He passed away, and he used to say all the time that the character's stuck with you, and you're stuck with the character, and that you have to find how to blend them. And so of course whatever I play, that character's stuck with me, and I think that the through line of all those through those characters is me, and is a certain feistiness. And I know sometimes my feistiness has gotten me in trouble. For sure, and my lack of diplomacy, which maybe I'm learning at some point, maybe
don't
possibly.
learn it too much, Michelle.
I don't know. It's just not in me. I
No.
try, but no, that is definitely their what bonds them all as characters. And I think Abby, out of all of them, is probably the smartest. As far as she's a shark. I don't think Melanie was a shark. I think that she was feisty. I think she was tough. I think she could handle anything. But I think she had a real sensitive side to her. I think you could hurt her like, especially Lindsay could hurt her like no one else. But I think for Abby, I think there's something really in her that she had found a way to protect herself with her IRA account and her bank account and her career. And she'd found a way to wrap herself like a cocoon through these things, and she decided that she never needed a man, but she would only be with someone, if she wanted them, not because she needed them. And she had really built this wall around her, and so in a way she was calculated, whereas Melanie was never calculated. Never. Abby was calculated. Maggie wasn't calculated at all. Maggie lived through the center of her heart, but she was still feisty. So they were all feisty, but Maggie lived from the center of her heart, and she didn't have a calculated bone in her body. And it was, But the feistiness is definitely what they all had their own brand of a certain feistiness and a certain honesty, certain unbridled, raw honesty. Like Maggie, when she let loose and told it exactly, like it was. And so did Melanie, and so did Maggie. And so I love that in characters. I love it in people. I love it in characters, and I think it's my complete hatred of hypocrisy and mendacity that pulls me to characters like that. And you don't see it all the time.
Yeah.
You don't see characters like that all the time. But when they do come along, I jump up and down. My heart sings.
But don't you think that when obviously the one you wrote doesn't count, but don't you think that when they do come along, that's a lot of the reason that you get them?
I think
because
so.
you have that. You have that in you.
Yeah,
that
I think
that fiery spirit of and that love for anyone who says what they think.
Yeah, and I think it's why I don't get some parts, because sometimes I'll read a script and I just get nauseous. I just can't. I just don't like the character. Yeah, I just don't like the characters or the situation, and it's hard for me to relate. And I think also as I get older, there's a lot that I don't like. And that's my problem, is that I'm so kind of not set in my ways, but you just get to a point where you like what you like.
Yeah.
I like good stories. I like great characters who are raw and unbridled and passionate, and I like to push the envelope, and I love people who are real and give it to me straight. And you just get to a point where you go, okay, well, this is me. This is who I am. I've explored every avenue, and I always come back to this is me.
And I come back to this is me. Yeah.
So.
That's what. Judy, did you see the Mercy Seat?
Yeah, she did.
Yes, I did. I was like in third row from the front, right in Michelle's line of vision. It was one of the things, it grabbed me. Really, what I loved about Abby was the fact that once she saw that Ben was not as the person she had thought she was strong enough to say, okay, and move on. Yeah. She was true to, she fought. She kept pushing and pushing. That was the best thing I ever saw, other than Gypsy, the original Gypsy.
Oh, Judy, I love you. Oh, God, that's great. I got to tell you, that it was a great experience. I loved every second of that. What a great character. And also, she was maybe the smartest of the characters, and she was strong, but she had that real love for Ben that made her so vulnerable. Yeah. And she had the compassion. That's what LaBute did so well. She had this compassion that she let Ben go.
Yes.
She was the one who walked out of that relationship, and she let him go, and she had the compassion to let him go because she knew that he wasn't strong enough to make the choice. And oftentimes I think men are not. They have a very for now kind of attitude, and so I think sometimes as a woman you have to make the choice for them, make the better choice, make the choice with integrity for them, and be the bigger person.
Well, I also think it's neat that a lot of the characters that you play, and then also maybe this is what you bring to them, that I think that sometimes people interpret in art tough women as sort of ball busters. Like they're always just tough as nails. And then they never get to sort of show their underbelly. Yeah, and you always make sure that the softness of them comes through.
Yeah, thank you.
And that's a hard thing to do. I mean, to be tough and show all those layers as an actor.
Yeah,
it's hard enough to show all those layers as a person, but to interpret that through somebody else's eyes is just a very difficult thing to do, to still be tough and show the softness.
Yeah, it's what I love. I really do love characters with different dimensions, and especially tough women who still have that real soft side.
Yeah.
You know, it makes them so interesting, and you know, vulnerability to me is so sexy.
Yeah,
I
agree.
I think people who are vulnerable and make themselves vulnerable and have the courage to make themselves vulnerable, it brings out a certain sexuality in the characters, and even a sexuality in their anger and in their toughness, that they still have needs and a desire to be vulnerable. I always find that so interesting in people and in characters.
And sometimes the tougher somebody is, the softer they are inside.
Yeah, I think, you know, it's interesting because you see Hillary as she's getting ready to do whatever she's going to do in 2016, which is run.
Which we can't really talk about, but we know it's happening.
Yeah, we know it's happening.
Sure, we're just
rumors,
pretending it's not happening.
People who are close to her and friends of family.
Bill going all over everywhere apologizing for everything they ever did. She's getting ready to run.
Covering up the tracks. She's totally getting ready to run. And but you see that she's grown. I mean, what's beautiful about her is she's grown so much from being Secretary of State. I mean, she was amazing. She's been amazing her entire life. But now I get so excited about being, you know, growing older when I see women like her, women like Robin Penn Wright and the amazing star turn she did on House of Cards, women like Jodie Foster in this movie that she's coming out in, where she has this very chic short haircut and she's, you know, doing this and that. And, you know, I get so excited about getting older. I find that older women, I do think they get sexier. I think there's something about being comfortable in your own skin. And you see Hillary, and she's even going through it. I mean, when she, what was that where she had to talk about Benghazi? Was that it? Yeah, she was gorgeous. And she got angry when she needed to get angry, and she had a sense of humor. She realized how ridiculous, what a dog and pony show it was. I mean, she had all these different dimensions and layers to herself because she's lived, and she had a vulnerability too. There were moments when she looked like a little girl, and I think as an actress, I'm looking at her not just as a woman, but I'm looking at her psychologically, thinking, wow, she's still growing, she's still learning, she's still changing. She's got all these other colors that I've never seen before, and I think she's hitting her prime.
Yeah.
I think 60 is the new age to, you know, she's hitting her prime.
And it's so funny because people are like, oh, she's going to be 70 by the time. Oh, what about all these old men? Nobody complains about them.
I know. Can you believe that? Who's it? Mitch McConnell?
Yeah.
Said something about her age. I was like, oh, for shame on you.
Right. Really?
For shame.
We'll drag those mummified old men in, and they're 105, and we're dragging them right into the presidency.
They're living in the dark ages, and they
shamans are reviving them to run. Old Dick Cheney, I think, died in about 1994.
That's a double standard.
Yeah,
and that's going to change soon. As soon as she's president, a lot's going to change.
Judy, thank you so much for calling. You're darling.
We love you, Judy. I love you, Judy.
And you're welcome.
All right.
You never know what she's going to say.
That was fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm so thrilled. One of the things that I love so much about what I do, one of my favorite things I've done on this show is that we followed you through the Mercy Seat. I think you did the show like 4 or 5 times during the run of that play.
I did. Yeah.
And we did it when you first got cast the first time. I think you had just been cast when you were here with the reunion.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And then right before you started rehearsing, and then you came in during rehearsals, and you came in right before you opened.
Yeah.
It was so fun to sort of follow you as an actor through what it's like to go through a play, which is much different than showing up on a set and doing a show.
So different.
I mean, it's a whole different world to do a live show.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's different. I love it. I think that right now I'm so pulled to. I want to do a film. I want
don't blame you.
Write something that's doable. You know, and I want to direct it. That's where I'm looking. And I may be in it. I may not. I don't know yet. I've got to see if when the script's written, if the writer writes me something juicy for me, then great.
And if get with the writer.
Yeah, if it doesn't serve the story, then I won't be in it. So.
Now, are you learning about the technical aspects of directing, or is that something that you've naturally picked up from being on set?
Do
you find that daunting, that part?
Yeah, I don't find it daunting. I think, on Queer as Folk, I shadowed a director, and I loved everything about that. I love the tone.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I love the tone meetings. I love the, setting up the shots. I love everything about it. I also love photography. I love DPs. I love working with DPs. I work very well with them. When we did the play, usually the DP does the shot list or the first AD, and of course the DP or the director on a low budget. But I was kind of left to do the shot list, so I did it, and I love putting the pieces of the puzzle together. And also I have very specific tastes. I like Cassavetes. I like Harmony Korine. I like All the President's Men, The Way We Were. I have very specific
right.
Taste in certain
you
things
like
that
artful shots.
I love artful
that are shot like
shots.
photographs. Almost.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. And I love photography. So I think with that, combined with shadowing John on Queer as Folk, combined with I was up in Montreal visiting my friend Brian Singer, and I'll just pick that name up off the floor right now. And no, but he's a friend. He's a great guy, and he's directing X-Men, and I feel like I can also turn to him and ask him advice as someone who is a bit of a mentor to me, and someone who I love and is an amazing person and so ridiculously talented and passionate. So I feel like I have a lot of support around me, and if I can find a DP who I really love and trust, and we can work together, then the technical it doesn't scare me. It doesn't scare me.
I think that's wonderful, because I think that's the hardest thing for creative people, is that oftentimes creative people aren't also technical people.
Yeah. And I don't know why it doesn't scare me. I think, and I know this sounds kind of crazy, but, my dad was in construction growing up, and I grew up around a bunch of tools, and he threw me on the back of a motorcycle, and I've, raced go-karts. And so when I look at tools and cameras and things and the grips, I love all that stuff. I feel very comfortable on a set, and I love tools and machinery and everything that goes into building something. I really part of the great fun doing the play is for me putting the pieces of the puzzle together, bringing the people together, because I love working with all different types of departments, and then also the building of it. David Maurer, who came out from Rogue Machine to go on the journey of the play with me in New York, he's incredible. He was just nominated for an Ellie Weekly Award for his set. For Dirty Love. Was it Dirty Love? Anyway, he came out to New York with me, and he's just such an artist, and such he knows construction, and he can put things together and build things with his hands, and I love that stuff. I just love building and creating things. So to me,
did he do your set design for your play?
He did. He did do the set design. I met him early on, and I said, we need a set for this, and I'd love to bring you out to New York. So I have someone from LA with me, and I'm so glad I did that. He was so down to earth and so cool, and he's one of those guys who I really want to make sure on the film. I'll probably ask him to work on the film. I love people who are not above getting dirty.
Yeah, I do too.
And that's my big lesson. I work well with people who, and my favorite people, and the most successful people I know, they run around in their jeans. Brian, runs around in his jeans and tennis shoes, and he gets his hands dirty, and he's not afraid to work hard. And I love people like that, and that's how I am. And so I like surrounding myself with people like that. I guess you would say the anti-dilettante, the real deal.
Absolutely. Now, where did you find the actor for your play?
Jeff, I've known Jeff for about 20 years now, and it was a very specific character, this character. I mean, I really had to find somebody who was charming, had a certain intelligence, and had a certain sexuality, and they had to be somebody who you could believe this woman would fall in love with, but who you didn't want her to end up with. And he embodied all of that, and that's hard to find, and there were more things that I needed. Someone who had a certain hipness, they had to be kind of hip, where you go, oh yeah, she might be fooled by him, So he just had the qualities that I needed for this character, and for the love of God, I couldn't think of anyone else.
Wow.
I couldn't. I just couldn't.
So you weren't really envisioning anybody when you wrote it?
No, I mean, early on I started thinking, God, who is going to play this part? And then I thought of Jeff. I thought, Jeff would be perfect for this. He really would. And then I kind of started writing with his voice in mind. And then I ran into him at Runyon Canyon. After 10 years. Hadn't seen him for 10 years. Wow. And I walk around a corner, and there he is. And I said, oh, holy shit, are you kidding me?
Right.
I said, I'm writing a play, and I'm thinking about you, and you got to be in it. And he's like, yes, of course, I'll do anything for you.
That was easy?
It was so easy. It was ridiculous. I mean, you really see how sometimes things are so, like, meant to be.
Absolutely.
And, the older you get, I think you believe in fate. Because you just go, well, that just makes sense.
No, and I completely agree. Now, is it the same thing with this story? As you start writing it for the film, are you starting to think of who you'd like to be who?
Well, but it's funny because there's a young girl in the story, and I keep thinking, wow, who would play that? Who would play that? I'm at that point where I'm going, well, who would play that? Who would play that? And I don't have anyone popping into my mind right now, but I'd love to discover some really interesting young actress. It's going to be a hell of a part for a young actress. And, I wish the part was older. I could play it. But you know what? The story is about her, and it's hopefully it'll line up. But I feel like there's something magical about the story. I'm feeling the same energy. I'm feeling like, even when I mentioned it to my friend Dan the other night at dinner, and he threw out some ideas, I thought, yeah, I could see this coming together in my mind. And I thought, yeah, I get it. And the wheels start spinning. You start
Wonderful.
Yeah, it's a fun part. It's a fun part because you start to go, yeah, this can work. And not every story works. And now that I'm wiser for doing the play, I really kind of see like what can work and what doesn't work. So
I think that's
excited.
important now. I think with the way that the economy of our business has gone. Now, if you want to get something made, it's important to write something that can get made.
Well, yeah, you got to.
It doesn't mean you have to compromise your story or your characters.
No, but it's got to be doable.
But you can't. You have to write for your budget.
Yeah.
And I think playwrights have learned that now. You have to
God,
write a play you can produce.
Yeah.
And so if you're going to write something with 15 set changes and a sea monster, then maybe everybody's not going to be able to produce that. But if you're going to write something that you can see a way to get it produced, then it will probably get produced.
Yeah. And this is something that it could be. I mean, right now in my head, I don't have any specifics, but $500,000, possibly 600,000, definitely. A million, perfect. A million, and I could comfortably make the film. But and that's just kind of a rough budget. There's this one scene, and there's a certain part of the film that's just gonna have to happen, and that's gonna be the money part. And I keep thinking, it's got to be in there. That's just got to be in there. So it's gonna have to be some money, not a lot of money, but some money.
That's good.
Yeah, it's fun. And then the business side of me is like, oh, I get to put that together. That's interesting. Oh, good. I like it. I like creating.
I like that and it's funny because I actually, when we solicited for people to send questions in when you guys were all here last time, some of the people are noticed that you're positive. People always talk about your positivity.
Do they? I didn't know that. Oh, I get that from my mom, I think.
But I think that it's a challenge in our business to keep sort of resetting with a smile on your face. And not everybody's so good at it. Other people kind of fall into these holes and dark periods where they let sort of the business get them down.
Right.
And you have to kind of reset and love the art no matter what you think of the business. And be hopeful about raising funds for a movie. Be hopeful about the enormous undertaking that is putting a play together in New York. And not sort of consider the whole thing to be a drain or, God, now I got to find the funds. And you always approach everything from a very positive.
Well, I just figure that, if I really want to do something, if something is really my passion and I am in love with a project, that I will get it done because I have a really kind of, I guess I do have a can-do attitude. I get that from my mom, though. She's like, she has this incredible kind of, she's 80 years old and she still giggles. She's still tickled by life. She still has a sense of play and fun, and she's always like, you know what? I think tomorrow's going to be a better day.
Yeah.
I just think it.
Mine's
she's
mine's
like
the same
that.
way. She'll be 80 in November, and she's the same way. I'll call her up even when I'm bunched up, and I think I barely have a pulse.
Oh, I call my mom up all the time. You know how much I owe her in therapy sessions?
Mine too.
I call her up,
and
she says the best wisdom and advice, and
mine
I
too.
thrive on. And this is advice you're getting from a woman who, she's a Democrat, she's 80 years old, she's been an independent thinker her whole life, and she's 80. She's lived through so much, so her advice is golden. I mean, it's just priceless. And but I guess I do. You know what, though? I got to tell you, I had a great mentor, and I think that has a lot to do with it. I wish everyone could have like one great mentor in their life.
You're talking about Milton.
Milton, yeah, because he always said that, the business, he's like, you know what, if you want to act, you act. If you want to create, you create. A painter paints, a writer writes. And even Brian the other day, he's like, you know what, paid or not paid, they could not pay me or pay me, I'm going to keep making films for the rest of my life.
Exactly.
And I think that a true artist has that in them. I knew this one girl where she was like, I just really, at this point in my life, I want everything to come to me, and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And I thought, wow, what a dilettante. It's like, you just like, if you read
Wouldn't that be
Cassavetes,
nice?
well, yeah, if you read Cassavetes' biography, if you read, and she hasn't really worked that much,
Yeah.
And
well, that's why she's got that
I look
attitude.
at people like that, and I'm like, what are you, crazy? You read Cassavetes' biography, you read Woody Allen's biography. These are directors and filmmakers and artists who went out and said, I'm not interested in myself in the art. I'm interested in the art inside me. I'm interested in what do I have inside of me and how can I explore that. And it comes from a totally different place than most of the stuff. It comes from a place of getting to know yourself and finding out who you are. I mean, I got to be honest. Sometimes I wake up and I feel like I'm just getting to know myself.
Yeah. I do too.
It's like,
I feel like I'm just coming into my own.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too. I feel like, wow, I just feel like things that I cared about before, I don't really care about. And the things that really are inspiring me, I just feel bold. I'm not afraid to take on a risk. And maybe it was doing the play, and maybe, that gave me the confidence to go forward and do a bigger project. But I just don't have the fear that I maybe used to, if I ever did. I mean, I'm still the girl who saw the script of Queer as Folk at 29 and said, sign me up,
Right. Amazing.
I'm heading into that.
Yeah.
So, I never really had fear.
Were you the first one to turn in your signed contract?
Yeah,
You took
really.
no time at all to think about it.
Yeah, exactly. And
did you have that same agent advice of, well, you might not want to do this?
Oh,
Okay.
totally. She was like, well, And I said, well, you know what? It's like, you really think a girl like me is going to be satisfied doing a sitcom? I mean,
right.
To this day, I'm still, it doesn't interest me. And I guess if it was a smart one,
Sure.
yeah, of course, absolutely. But a lot of stuff doesn't interest me. And, but writing interests me and directing interests me. I think that I have that inside of me. And I love acting to death and activism and my friends and my family and eating great food and drinking great wine.
Yeah.
So,
living a little bit in the middle of the creativity.
Yeah, and family. I have family on the brain, absolutely. I'm thinking, wow, you look at your family and everyone's, getting older and they have their families, and you think, you start to have these thoughts. And
yeah.
So I have
Are you
a
having
lot.
family thoughts?
You said it like they're bad. Are you having family
but
thoughts?
are you having family thoughts?
Well, I think we all have had family thoughts throughout,
Sure.
different periods of our lives, and I think at this point, yeah, definitely. I've always thought, wow, wouldn't it be great to start a family? It's just a thought. It's just a thought, but it's certainly something that you start to look at and you start to think, what? I think I have a great mother inside me, and you start to think about that, and you start to think about, wow. That's,
well, and my
and
mom,
you have the confidence to do it too.
my mom was adopted, so I've always thought I would adopt, and I think probably someday I will.
Yeah.
And I don't have to adopt like babies. I would adopt older kids.
A 35-year-old, they'd come over once on
No,
Sundays,
I did that
and
once.
you would meet their. It was called a relationship.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I did that twice. Yeah.
Hey, we've all done that once or
no,
twice.
thank you. But like maybe 10, 12, all the kids that have trouble getting adopted.
Well,
when they're
and
just
that's a
starting to be
beautiful
that
thing.
fun age where they want to go do things, and I think that we live in a strange society where we want all this but we don't want this. And my mom was adopted when she was almost 12.
Yeah.
So and
wow,
she was lucky.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And she was really, really lucky that she was adopted old.
Wow.
So, a friend of mine works with Wednesday's Child, and they sort of do an adoptable. And I always say to her, someday I may call you. And she's like, we're waiting. I'm just waiting.
Wow.
So,
that's fantastic.
I would do that because I had such a connection to my mother like you do.
Yeah.
And I think you sort of feel like you'd like to pass that sort of love on to somebody.
Yeah, you feel like you finally get to that point in your life where you feel like you have a very good, you're searching your entire life, and then you come to a point where you have a real freedom in how you see the world, and a real sense of, I think I see it pretty, as it is. I think I have a really good grasp on it, and I'm still hopeful. And so it's that moment where you go, wow, I can look, I can see it for exactly what it is, and I can still have this great optimism. And you go, yeah, okay, I think that would make a good combination of values to pass on. And also you think about the you see all these kids, and I don't know. You just start to think about what you can pass on and what you can give, and
Sure.
you want to leave the world a better place than how you found it. And whether
Right.
it's through a legacy or a child, or whether
Right.
it's
Or
through,
both.
both, or what, however that is, you just want to give. How many ways can I give? And so, absolutely, it's something that I think about, and I think, wow, that would be fantastic. So, but you have to I had to get to the point where I'm thinking, I feel confident enough that I could do that.
Yeah.
I think I've lived enough to know that, I could sit home and color. I could, it's like you got to get to a point
You
where
and that little one could paint pictures of you in the shower.
oh God.
Well, just like you can do some George W.
So
Bush
George
paintings.
W. Bush.
Yeah, your bathtub or the back door.
Yeah.
With some watercolors.
Yeah, but it's you do get to that point where I think it's or you're inspired to do that, or yeah. So it's something, and you do see your family. My family is they're far away, and I miss having a family close, and I'm very much a family oriented person. I love family.
Yeah.
I love it so much. I think it really feeds your soul, and it brings so much to your life, and so yeah.
I never really
think about
had much, so I've built mine. I have a chosen family that I love.
Yeah.
But I think of that sometimes. So much of my life has been about work and traveling from this place to that place and doing this and that and being on the air all the time. And I remember that, my mama's older and she needs me. So I spend as much time with her as I can. I call her every day. We connect every day, and that's important to have our connection time.
Yeah.
And she always says it's good for her, but I think it's just as good for me.
Oh, trust me. The other night I said, hey, I text my mom. We text. She's 80 and she's texting
Good for
like
her.
crazy.
I wish I could get mine to text.
She is the funniest. I save all of her text messages. They're so funny. Her personality comes through. I don't know how she gets so much emotion into her text messages. They're hysterical. And so we have this ongoing conversation. And the other night I said, hey, how you doing? I know you're going to bed soon, but I love you. Okay, talk mañana. That's what I said to her. And she said, you want to talk, don't you? She called me, and it was so funny because she's like, I could just tell when you say talk mañana, you don't say talk mañana. I could tell you wanted to talk now. And I said, oh my God, I can't get anything past this woman,
I can't either.
even through a text.
No,
she sees through me like a cheap dime novel.
Mine
and
too.
I guess that's just being 80 and living this life, and also she was an older mother. She had me when she was 40, so she was on top of it.
Right.
She knew a thing or two about a thing or two. I couldn't get much past her.
Yeah. Well, and mine was,
but it was fun.
33 when she had me, so my dad was 41, so they were older
that's
too.
That's not 20.
Right,
Yeah.
no, as she often points out. You know what, if I'd been 20, I would have had 5. But at 33 after 1, I was tired.
She was one and done.
And, she's like, you know what, if I'd been a 20-year-old, I would have had 5 of you. But I think we wouldn't have had the connection if there had. I mean, we have a really intense connection.
Well, that's interesting because my sisters are 60. Oh, what are they? If I get this wrong, they'll kill me. They're 61. And one's going to be 60, and then my brother's like 51, and then there's me. I'm 43. So it's my mom had me after everyone else was already raised, basically. Well, my brother was 8, but so it was a lot of her and I growing up. My dad was working a lot, and so we were buddies.
Yeah,
and
we were too. Same thing. We moved a lot.
Yeah.
My dad got transferred,
Yeah.
and we were always in a new place, and it was just the two of us.
Yeah,
and we were buddies.
You're buddies. You're buddies.
We were always buddies, and we're still buddies.
We're exactly.
And I would,
beautiful.
if I have any wish in life, it's that I grow with the grace and the sense of humor and the amazing
compassion,
chutzpah that she has grown with. She's not one of those little old ladies who's always complaining.
Oh no, my mom will not
she's
complain.
Tough and funny.
And you know what's interesting? I'll be at the bank, right? And I'll be at this I'll be standing in line, I'll be in Beverly Hills, and this someone will come, and this 80-year-old guy will come and cut in front of me. Won't say anything, just cut in front of me. And I'll think to myself, God, that's just arrogant. My mother, she stands in every line. She never takes advantage of her age.
Right.
She never complains. She's so salt of the earth. And, it's interesting. She has become such a hero of mine. I think when you're growing up, you just know that you want to get away with as much as possible.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, you start to see your mom at a certain age, and you're like, wow, she's really cool. She's a cool lady.
Mine's
She's
always been my hero, I think.
Yeah. Wow.
I always thought
I had to grow up. I was devious, though. I was.
Yeah. I had to grow up in a lot of ways. But I didn't, you know what? She was so cool that I didn't really ever do bad things. And every once in a while she says, maybe I should have just given you a little more to rebel against. Yeah. But she was so wonderful about everything. Everything was okay.
Well, we had. I remember she hit menopause because she was an older mom. She hit menopause when I hit puberty. And let me tell you, my dad, I thought he was going to freak out. We were so feisty with each other. It was crazy. But it only lasted for about a year and a half. We just had this one little, it was a year and a half, and it was really intense.
Yeah.
Everything was really emotional. And afterwards, we laugh about it now. We're like, oh, my God, you realize that when you started puberty, I started menopause, and that's, the year and a half was just insane. And my father was right there, and a good man and so sweet and supportive. But, we just had a year and a half where it was really intense.
Yeah, and we had that when I was in high school, and I think we were just sort of learning how to live separately. Mm-hmm. Because we had done everything together.
Yeah.
And now when I look back, I think, okay, so I did everything with her, and then I grew up.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And that must be hard. Suddenly I wanted a car, and I wanted to be out by myself, and I wanted to date, and I wanted to have boyfriends, and she was still, it was for her best friend kind of was gone.
Yeah.
So now I look back and I think that must have been kind of sad.
Yeah.
And she's a Scorpio. And
is she?
God, yes. And all of that, that love and that passion.
Intense.
Oh God, all of that intensity. She's still that intense at 79 years old.
I'm certain of it. Are you kidding?
And Irish. So it's amazing.
Oh, God.
She always says she should be in prison, but she's too smart to get caught because she's got all of that, all that Scorpio love. I mean, Scorpios take good care of their own.
We're loyal.
Don't cross them. But they take really good care of you while you're,
Absolutely.
So I never had to worry about it. And I still don't know. I called her today and told her I was freaking out. She would say, oh, honey, smile and laugh and just get through your day and don't worry about it and we're going to fix everything.
Isn't that funny? My mom says the same thing. And I think it's this old, being older, you realize that you only have so many days on this earth.
Yeah.
And when you look back, because I even realized looking back in my 20s or my 30s, I'm like, what was I worried about that for?
I feel the same way.
What was I thinking?
Absolutely.
And I think really as you get older, it comes down to don't worry.
Yeah.
Don't stress. Deal with the most important things. Live your life.
Yeah.
If you don't like it, change it.
Yeah.
And
just
don't
love your way through everything.
Yeah.
Life is so much easier when you just love your way through everything.
Isn't that true?
And I see people all freaked out about this and this person did this to them and they're angry at that person. And I think, you know what? If somebody's not fitting, then disconnect and take a step away.
That's, and
but
you do
just
that.
let it go. Because to worry about all these petty dramas and turmoils, it eats you away and it takes precious time out of your life that you could be loving somebody else.
Yeah. I think I went through a big, I feng shuied my place, which means you just get rid of half of everything you own. And that's what it really means. And I'm still going through some stuff. I mean, it's really, it's so interesting how the energy shifts. And I did have a ton of stuff, but it's amazing how much you collect, after years of living in the same place. And it was interesting. I noticed that as I was purging my home, I was also purging my life, and I was purifying, and looking at certain things that I was like, I'm done with that. Forget about that. That person, I don't need to call them back ever. So I just kind of.
And it's not like I felt like I needed to write a note and say you are not my friend because it was just. And I went through the same thing. When I started this show, I thought, this was another chance I didn't think I was going to get. I didn't know that I was going to do another show. I didn't know that I was ever going to get to do this show that I'd pitched everywhere. And I thought now is the time for second chances. So the first thing is that we're cut a clean slate on everything.
Yeah.
I don't care who was mean to me, angry, owes me money. I don't care. It's over. And just that letting go process was so amazing for me spiritually and emotionally. And then physically, I lost 200 pounds. I mean, it just everything that I was holding on to.
That's amazing.
Everything that I was holding on to just went goodbye.
Talk about cathartic.
And it just happened.
Yeah.
And then I realized that there's such a different way to approach everything. Just approach everything with love. And people say, "Oh, but this person." I'm like, you know what? I don't have to worry about that anymore.
Yeah.
It happened.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean I'm going to get into business with that person again, but I don't have to worry.
Exactly.
So many people will tell me now. So you know what I did? I wrote this email and I said, "I'm not friends with you anymore, and this is why." And I'm like, yeah, but that's still engaging.
Totally.
You just got to let it go. And there's a whole different thing in letting it go and having to tell everybody off. And I don't have. I'm so focused on coming here every day and helping wonderful people to share their stories with the world.
Yeah.
I don't have time to write letters telling people to go away.
Well, usually when you're following your bliss, that's
people
when
just go away.
Everything just works out. Everything just kind of unfolds the way that you want it to. And I think that's why I think it's important to constantly follow your bliss and do what makes you happy, and everything just kind of flows. It just all works, and that's really important. I always get sad when I see someone and they're not doing what makes them happy, or they're putting up with a situation that doesn't make them happy. I want to thrive. I want to feel good. I want to enjoy my days. I want to do things I'm passionate about, and it may not be what everyone's passionate about.
No,
it may not
doesn't
be
have to be
what my agent's passionate about, or my best friend, or this person or that person. But you know what? It's what I'm passionate about, and I think that there's great happiness to be found in that, and going to the beat of your own drum, and getting to know yourself, and and really being awake and making sure that you're making your own life choices and no one else is driving the car.
Now, as an actor, is that tough? I mean, do you fight for things that other people, that your agent maybe thinks, well, wouldn't you just rather do this? Or, I mean, is it hard to be an actor and really fight for what you love? Because you've talked a couple of times during this last 2 hours about doing things that speak to you and that you feel passionate about. And I think a lot of actors feel like just take whatever you can get because you don't know what you're going to get next.
Yeah.
Is that a hard thing for you?
I think that, I think when I was younger, I just wanted to work. And that served me well, And I think that now that I'm older, I really love writing. And I want to try my hand at directing, and I love acting, but I think there's also something where the smarter you get, the less scripts you like, and that's a difficult thing unless you're Charlize Theron or someone who can pick what they want. And if that's the case, if there's going to be a limited amount of scripts that you like, and there's already a limited amount of jobs, then you start writing your own stuff. And I think in this business it's changed so much. It used to be much more a kind of by the book business. You go, you audition, you get the job, and now everyone writes their own thing. Everyone's doing their own thing, with the internet coming on strong. People are doing all sorts of things. You look at Louis C.K., who I love Louis C.K. I feel like I'm a female Louis C.K. I relate to that man. I actually have a crush on him. Huge crush.
He's wonderful.
He's fantastic. I almost feel like I'm a cross between him and Larry David. It sounds strange.
That's awesome.
And I'm not pitching you.
Not physically, people.
Not physically, but I'm not pitching my next, web series, a cross between female Louis C.K. and Larry David. But I think that the business is changing so much. And when I look at someone like Louis C.K., he's following his bliss. I mean, he created this show. He's at the helm of it. He's directing it. It's his baby. It's his voice. And I think that's why it's so good.
Yeah.
It's not, you really have to protect your voice, and you have to make sure that your concept is protected, and his is so clear and so beautiful and carved out so gorgeously. And you go to his website, he's selling his own material.
Yeah.
And now people are self-publishing. A great article in the New York Times. People are self-publishing all over the place.
I think it's wonderful.
David Mamet just self-published.
Wow.
I think is it CAA? I think CAA or ICM. They have a publishing department now for their clients to serve them to self-publish their own books or plays. And and I'm working on a book as well, inspired by my mom. She's like, you got to write this down. You got to write this down. And it's about something I can't talk about once again because it's very personal, but it's something that's never been talked about. People don't talk about it, and I'm so tired of people not talking about what I want to talk about.
Can we all just talk about what Michelle wants to talk about now, please?
Yeah, now.
Right.
But it's a great subject that needs to be talked about, and so I think that it's a Renaissance world where you can really, it's set up for like in the 70s when the personal computer came out. In the 70s it was all about personal empowerment, and now we're just seeing that on speed, times 10, and it's all about personal empowerment. Everyone finding their voice and finding out who they are, and all the tools we have to really discover that voice.
Yeah.
And so I think it's an amazing time to be an artist, and it's very empowering. And the old ways are slowly. I mean, films are still fantastic, and they always will
Absolutely.
be. But there's a lot going on, a lot that's really fascinating.
Well, and television has gotten amazing.
Oh God, some of the best writing is going on in TV.
And now
I just think that.
I agree.
I think
and now
that.
what people are doing with web series.
Oh, House of Cards. Did we talk about that last time?
Oh, no.
I binged on it. I binged it 3 days, and I saw the whole thing.
I need to do it. I may do it tomorrow. It's on my list.
Breaking Bad. Vince Gilligan's Breaking Bad. The best writing on TV.
Yeah.
One of the best shows. I'm obsessed. My friend Brian's obsessed. We were like, we can't wait for it. I think it's July when it comes back.
Right.
And we're like, Breaking Bad. When is it coming? And so inspirational.
And so many amazing actors coming to television.
God.
Jessica Lange in American Horror Story.
Can you believe her? I love her. She's always been one of my favorites.
Well, what about American Horror Story? Let's take a whole cast and switch the story every year.
Every season.
What a great idea.
And I think it's just going to get more so. I think creativity.
Just outside the box thinking.
Constantly.
And now people are coming up with. I've had so many people on the show that have these amazing web series, and they're getting all kinds of talent to partake in them.
Yeah.
And now with the SAG contracts, you can have union people in them.
Well, web series are really getting exciting now.
Web series are amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what a great
really
idea.
Exciting.
Make your own story and release it how you want. You decide how long the episodes will be. You decide how often they come out.
And you know what? I don't really watch TV. I watch MSNBC for about 20 minutes a day.
Yeah,
and
I do too.
That's it. Other than that, I read my news. I read the New York Times every day, whether it pisses me off or not.
Oh, okay.
As misogynistic as it gets sometimes, I still read it every day.
You grunt your way through it?
I grunt my way through it sometimes. And because I'm a junkie that way, and I do 20 minutes of MSNBC, and then everything else is on the computer.
Yeah. And do you pick your 20 minutes of MSNBC, or is there a specific 20
minutes? It's usually
minutes?
Rachel Maddow.
Okay.
I touch on Chris Matthews and Lawrence O'Donnell.
I love Chris Matthews.
I
tend to catch it in the afternoons because I'm here.
Yeah.
So I tend to catch it somewhere between Al Sharpton and Chris Matthews.
I don't get the Morning Joe show. I don't get it.
Okay. I've seen it because sometimes I'm up at 3 in the morning. Now, what don't you like about Morning Joe? Because this is interesting. We can do a whole...
What is it? I like people who are authentic, and I just feel on Morning Joe, they're also self-satisfied and pleased with themselves. When people get a little too pleased with themselves, I get nauseous.
But isn't that kind of what a morning show is? Have you ever
guess.
listened to morning
it's like,
radio?
Oh, we're so happy. We're up early drinking our coffee.
There's the kind of disgruntled guy who's kind of a jerk and kind of quiet. And then there's the real obnoxious, bitchy, pandering female co-host. And then they have Willie, he's kind of like the Jimmy Olsen, like the young, fresh, look at me, I'm smarter than both these two old guys. I think it's just sort of the morning show formula.
It drives me nuts.
Right.
It makes me angry. Every time I'm like, Morning Joe. God, why does that have that?
But it's brewed by Starbucks.
I do like that.
It has its own sponsorship.
I do like that, but there's something about it. It's so centrist, and it's so, I don't know.
Right. But certainly Mika's not centrist at all. I mean, she's always throwing in all of her left stuff.
I know. I guess it's just like they're also like self-satisfied.
Yeah.
I can't explain
it. It's morning shows. That's
why
I don't do a morning radio show. Although I would, but I wouldn't like it. I would do a morning show for the exposure, but I don't like morning shows.
They're all a little too witty. Right. Does that make sense? They're like tee hee hee ha.
But don't you feel that way about the Today Show and Good Morning America?
I don't watch any of them.
Oh, it's all that
same
kind of thing. I watch them when I'm at my mom's
shows.
because she occasionally gets up early. Not so much anymore since my dad passed last year. She doesn't get up early anymore. Now she sleeps in. But it's a sort kind of like, and today we have, and then everybody goes, ha, ha, ha. And then everybody's just, that's great.
Give me Chris Matthews or Lawrence O'Donnell or Rachel Maddow.
That Irishman gets so fired up that he drools.
Awesome.
Like spit comes out of his mouth.
Him.
And he is so fired up.
I saw him speak in person, and I just love him.
He's magic.
I love his mind.
He's a beautiful example of good things from the Northeast.
Yeah.
He has that sensible Philadelphia.
So great.
And I love every once in a while when he makes a crazy Irish reference or talks about his grandma.
Yeah.
And talks about, this is what my Irish grandmother would call this. And I always retweet his Irish grandmother stuff.
Yeah.
Because he's got that kind of practicality.
Yeah.
But with the passion. Mm-hmm. That's my favorite thing in a person is passion and practicality together.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes people who are passionate, they're so out there in woo-woo land. It's like, are you ever going to say anything that makes any sense?
Yeah.
I love that you're feeling it, but what is it?
The pragmatic progressive.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
I love that.
Definitely.
So I usually catch it in those afternoon hours.
Yeah. Maybe I just don't like morning shows. Maybe it's just like The View. It just doesn't do anything.
It's the same thing,
and that's
right?
an afternoon show,
No, I think The View is mornings.
Is it morning?
Like 10
I don't know.
morning?
See, I don't watch it. I just don't watch it.
Regis and Kelly, which is now Kelly and somebody else.
I just can't.
Right?
just can't. I guess it's morning shows in general, which obviously I'll never be on a morning show now. I can't stand morning shows.
That's it. She's on the
blacklist. I
blacklist.
guess, you know what? I like to read the paper in the morning and drink coffee, and that to me is one of the biggest joys. I just love waking up and drinking coffee and reading the paper with my dog.
It's wonderful.
You know, he doesn't read the paper as well, but you know, I tell him what's going on.
He doesn't want the coffee.
He doesn't want the coffee.
He'll take like a biscuit.
Actually, he loves human food. I mean, what dog doesn't, but he's like, I make him lean ground beef from Whole Foods, and I cook it instead of like olive oil, I cook it in omega oil, and I give it to him like once a week. He's 6 years old, and for a French bulldog, he has the greatest coat you've ever seen.
Wow.
In the world. He looks like a puppy. I'm not kidding you. He looks like a puppy.
Wow.
I think I discovered something.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, you're giving him real healthy food.
Oh God, he eats like it's embarrassing how well he eats. I mean, he eats like he likes raw almonds.
Yeah.
I guess it's like I'm eating, and so the stuff that I think he can have, I share with him.
Right.
So it's like, you know, he'll have a carrot once in a while.
Yeah. My mom has this Maltese, and I think she's almost made him human. If I came down one time and he just started talking, I wouldn't be surprised. He's almost human. And she says, you see, he's almost a little boy. And he really is getting there.
Well, I say I love you to my dog a lot, and I swear to God, he'll say,
I have a cat that I swear says 8 words.
Swear to God. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that makes me feel normal.
No, I think it's totally normal. I think that the more that you treat them not like pets and like your equals, the more that you get out of them. I don't know whoever told us that pets were not our equals.
Well, it's interesting because, you know, I don't know what I did with Jimmy, but I feel like it does give me confidence that I can be a mom because he is the most zen creature I've ever met. Kind, smart. Other dogs, I see these little dogs on our block, and they're just and they're barking at him, and they're growling at him, and he walks by them, and he looks at them, and he looks away, and he keeps walking, and he never barks. He doesn't bark. Unless someone comes to the door, he'll bark, but that's it. He doesn't bark back at other dogs. He's very zen. He's very smart. I mean, he's a lovely creature, you know, and I think, wow, I did a good job with him. Well trained, you know, sweet. The only time he peed inside, I think in the beginning it was tough.
When they're babies.
And then sometimes if I've been out of town too long, he'll give me his booty. He goes to the wall and he gives me his back.
Oh.
And he does this thing where he's like, you know what? I'm not talking to you for a few days, lady.
I get that too.
That's not cool.
From my cat when I go away.
That's not cool.
She turns to the wall and gives me her back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's like, talk to the back. And the only time he really did anything that was odd was I was having an argument with my boyfriend at the time, and he went out to the balcony, and he was taking a break, and my dog Jimmy went out there and peed on his foot.
Oh.
And he was shocked. No one had ever done that to him. And Jimmy peed right on his foot. And I was like, wow, that was really interesting. He's smart.
But did it turn out in the end that he was somebody who you wish you had peed on his foot?
I'm so glad he peed on his foot. It makes me so happy. Jimmy was a genius.
Do you know?
Like, it took me 4 months to realize I wanted to pee on his foot, and Jimmy was like, no, this guy, this kind of guy, this is how you treat him. You pee on his foot.
I dated a guy in college, and my dog hated him. And this dog was so friendly that she would do like a happy dance anytime anybody came over. My mom used to say in another life she was an old stripper. But this guy came around, and she would bare her teeth at him. And
really?
I stopped dating him because of that.
Yeah.
That and the fact that he looked surprisingly like Jerry Seinfeld. Mm-hmm. But there was something about him that my mom was like, I don't know about you, but I certainly wouldn't date anybody my dog didn't like. Yeah. There's something to be said for that.
Well, you know, I remember, it was the end of a date, and the door was open, and this guy went to kiss me goodbye, and Jimmy kind of jumped up. He was not having it.
Yeah, Jimmy did not like that guy at all.
Not like that guy. He'd never done that before, and I was like, wow. And it turned out I think Jimmy was right on. You know, I listened to him. He's
From now on, I bring everyone I know over to see Jimmy.
And exactly. See how he
everybody
reacts.
I know, new agents, neighbors.
Yeah.
We need to go see Jimmy.
Lane is actually my friend. Lane is spending the weekend with me, and I woke up in the middle of the night, and Jimmy wasn't there. And I got up and I walked in the other room, and he had curled up with Lane. And I was like, he didn't want Lane to be by himself. I swear to God, he's so sensitive. He's so sensitive, this dog. He's really like, he spreads the love. He doesn't want anyone to feel left out. He's so sweet. He was all curled up, and I was like, oh.
What a sweet baby.
Oh, I love him. I love him. I love him. Love him.
You're amazing. Will you come back and see me again? I would love that.
Absolutely.
I know we're going to bring all you guys back right before the Rise and Shine USA.
Let's do it.
And we'll do a big reunion again. You know, Gail was in here last week and we played music.
Oh, was he really?
We just played music.
What did you do? I want to come and play music.
He just brought music, and we just played selections.
How does he bring it?
He brought it just on a thumb drive, and we put it all MP3s in.
Okay.
Next time he's bringing his record player, we're going to play vinyl.
I was going to say, I have vinyl. I have a lot of vinyl.
Yeah.
Oh, God, I want to play vinyl.
I have so much vinyl. I never got rid of any of my vinyl.
Wow.
I'm glad you didn't feng shui your vinyl.
Oh, no. My vinyl's going the distance with me.
Good.
No,
yeah,
no,
mine
no
too.
Way. I have some. No, I have incredible vinyl. Oh, we should get together and play vinyl.
Awesome.
That'd be fun.
Vinyl party.
Okay.
Where can people find out about everything you're doing online?
Twitter, Facebook. Actually, Facebook, because now I don't have to confirm the friendship. I'm at 5,000 friends, but they can just follow it anyway.
Okay, and they can still post and.
Yeah.
I made my page the same way.
Yeah, I don't know if they can post or not. Maybe you could show me how to do that.
Yeah, I think it's just a setting. That even if they're subscribing, they can still post.
Really?
Yeah, I have my page totally open, so people can continue to post no matter what.
Oh, that's cool.
Because the same thing with me. I filled up, and I had to start a second page.
Yeah.
But I didn't want the people on the first page to feel like they couldn't go there as well.
Right,
so I just make everything open.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. I like it.
Kind of where I'm at.
I like it.
Okay, so if you miss any of those links, go to where Michelle said, or you can go to SheenaMetalExperience.com or LATalkRadio.com. You can send me an email, and I will gladly forward those links over to you. Thank you so much for doing this with me today.
That was so much fun.
Much fun.
I love you. I love you.
I love you too. You need to come back and do this more.
Will do.
It's the Sheena Metal Experience on LA Talk Radio, and you know what we do here, people. Every Monday through Friday, 5 to 7 p.m. Pacific Time, we rip the veil off the human sideshow and expose the creatures I like to call big old Homo sapiens at their most bizarre and always at their most beautiful. And it's to every day on the show. It may be my show. It is the Sheena Metal Experience after all. Doesn't mean it's not always and forever, undoubtedly and indubitably, and you know what I'm going to say, people. Maybe my show, but it's most definitely your experience. Thanks for listening. Have a great night, and I'll see you all. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you all on Monday right here on LA Talk Radio.